So there,
is that Nick Manassian sitting there?
That is Quick Nick Manassian, the technical director, in fact, the racing team manager of IDEC Sport. That car qualified on pole, Peter, didn't it? And actually, for a team that's so relatively inexperienced, they've had a pretty good run so far.
Absolutely, yeah. And Nick himself, still a very fast driver. So having a wee change of seat there? Yeah, is that because that one's too cold?
No, it's because I've got my computer by this one. So I'm now in your left ear, everybody, if you're listening in split stereo. Oh, no. Flipping GPS screen has gone off, so we'll do a little bit of housekeeping. Now, the other thing about Nick Manassian is he actually started as a sporting director with Dragon Speed last year when Elton Julian's team was running not only their own car in European Le Mans Series, but also the G-Drive car. And Nick Manassian did that, and then having, quote, retired and become a race director or
team manager, or
team manager. Then one of their drivers wasn't available in one of the European Le Mans Series races, so he drove. And so we went and said, "Oh,
and he's probably still the quickest."
And he said, "Who said I retired?" Yes, he was very offended at the thought that he might have been forcibly retired by somebody without his own knowledge. And he is still, he's not called Quick Nick for no good reason.
So looking at the 48 car, that's fourth in LMP2. That is Nick's car.
Yep.
Rojas at the wheel.
Now, Memo Rojas started his racing career in North America. He's been doing more and more European racing, well, global racing, raced in the World Endurance Championship the last couple of seasons. Corvette is in from 15th in class. Now, I was not on air when whatever happened to Tommy Milner, Ollie Gav and Marcel Fassler car happened. I can tell you what's happening there. They're having a disc and brake caliper change. And they have fast brake hoses. Don't try doing it like that at home, just disconnecting the hose, because you'll spend the rest of your life trying to bleed the brakes, particularly if you're a classic car owner. But they have fast brake hoses, so you don't lose the pressure in the system. They basically are sealed, and then when you connect it to a primed caliper, it works without having to be bled through. So since the beginning of the race, some 10 hours ago, we have lost a grand total of 4 cars. We are 10 hours into the 86 Le Mans 24 hours. It is now 1 AM Central European time, 2300 GMT. Mike Conway leads the race from Sebastian Buemi. The Toyota Gazoo Racing LMP1 hybrids are 1-2, separated by 2 minutes and 10 seconds last time round. Third and fourth are the 2 remaining healthy LMP1 cars, and they are both run by Rebellion Racing. The number 3 car is in P3. I hate that so much, 3rd place. And the number 4 car, in fact, the number 1 car, in fact, is in 4th position. Now, behind them, already into 5th place overall, with 10 hours down and 14 hours to go, is the lead LMP2 car. Andrea Pizzitola leads in LMP2 for G-Drive, Pierre Thirier second for Signatec, and that is the number 26 car of Andrea Pizzitola, the back of these 3 cars. That car has been absolutely ragged by its drivers. It hasn't been off, it hasn't had issues or excursions, but it is living a pretty tough life. However, as we've seen in the last few seasons, LMP2 cars with this new 650 horsepower V8 that was introduced last year can definitely take it. So G-Drive lead from Signatec by 2 minutes and 59 seconds, or should we say 3 minutes. And then Julien Canal, third for Panis Barthez, just 26 seconds behind the Signatec Alpine car. In 4th place, IDEC Sport, the pole sitters, 5th TDS Racing with Loic Duval. And in 6th position, Jonathan Hershey drives the 39 Graf Racing car. And of the LMP2 cars, only 1 car has sort of dropped behind the wagon train, and that's number 38 Jackie Chan DC Racing car. Gabriel Aubry, who's at the wheel now, early on in the race, had a massive moment when the rear suspension failed, and that car is 5 GT Pro cars behind the main field in LMP2. Talking of GTE Pro, In 23rd place overall is the lead car. That's the Porsche number 92, driven by Kevin Estre, and that is the pink livery car. The blue and white livery car, the number 91 of their 2 historic liveries. That is being driven by Richard Leeds. That is in 2nd place. The Porsche 123 has been broken up, because in 3rd place is Joey Hand in the 68 Chip Ganassi Team USA Ford. In 4th in GTE Pro, AF Corsa's number 52 car of Antonio Giovinazzi. The 51 and 71, their regular World Endurance cars, their lead teams, including the champions in 71, have both struck problems and are way down the order. And in fact, with Scott Dixon in 5th position in GTE Pro and Mike Rockenfeller in 6th position in GTE Pro with their Ford and Corvette respectively, those are the only cars, the top 6, that have not had a problem, an issue or a penalty of one kind or another. Because 7th in GTE Pro is the 67 Ford of Harry Tinknell, and that has had a drive-through penalty for going past another car before the end of a either slow zone or safety car period. Can't remember which, slow zone I think. Which leaves one class, and that is the GTE AM category. We've lost one car from that, and that is the 98 Aston Martin of Paul Dalla Lana. So that car had a high-speed crash in the Porsche curves about 2 hours ago and has not yet, or will not return to the race, will not return to the pits. Dempsey Protons, Porsche Junior driver Matty Campbell, the Aussie, leads in the 77 car. JMW in 2nd place. Cooper McNeil in the WeatherTech Ferrari is in 2nd, because JMW are not in their regular black, red and yellow colours. They're in WeatherTech white and black. And Risi Competition running Keating Motorsports Ferrari in 3rd. Lucas Stoltz at the wheel of the 85 car, head of Dempsey Proton's 88 car driven by Giorgio Roda. Spirit of Race Ferrari and Team Project One Porsche are 5th and 6th. And the best of the Aston Martins is still TF Sports car in 8th position. So the AM class is basically Porsche versus Ferrari. The Pro class is Porsche versus Ford versus Ferrari versus Corvette. And coming in for his double-double and change stint, Julian Porter. Jules Dark, cooler outside, better for drivers, but you can see the grandstands have emptied quite a lot. I think there's a few people have sloped off to a little warm cubbyhole somewhere.
Well, I've just been to see a friend of mine in the paddock, and just basically outside our compound, and it's rammed. Everyone's in, like, kind of come back into the paddock. There's so many people wandering around, as you say, I think on their way to a tent or a caravan or a car or under a tree. I'm not really sure which one it's going to be at the moment, but
sure, I'm now going to trot out a story I've probably trotted out every year since about 1990. When I first came down as a fan, left London Victoria Coach Station on a Friday afternoon. We had to push start the coach, came across on a ferry, another coach in France down to Le Mans, and we journeyed on Sunday evening. And the only place to sleep was either on the coach, which I never quite got back to until we left, or somewhere else. So when I got so tired I couldn't stand up any longer, I wrapped my coat around me and lay down in a car park and went to sleep. I woke up with rain on my face, rolled under a car and went back to sleep.
I've seen people walking around with sleeping bags around them. My first trip here was 89 when the Sauber Mercs were in and they won. We left work at 6 o'clock on the Friday evening. We drove down from the north of England down to Dover on the ferry across, arrived here about midday, watched the race, watched the finish just from the grandstand near the start-finish line, back into the car, and we opened up the family business at 7 o'clock on the Monday morning.
There you go.
Commitment.
It's a proper commitment.
Major commitment, yeah.
Well, I was working for Autosport at the time. We left the office on Friday evening, went back in on Monday morning for press day, which finished at midnight, in the same clothes.
Yeah.
Every single man Jacobus, so nobody else came into our office on Monday or probably on Tuesday either, but we didn't notice the smell.
I've done the race, finished on the podium, got in the car and drove straight home.
Drivers do this. I've heard of this. It's like, oh, we want, we're
still wired.
Yeah, still wired.
Yeah, still
we'll just
wired.
drive. We'll just go home.
And wired the next day as well.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm not surprised.
And in fact, one of us in this booth still smells of champagne.
Yeah, my eyes are stinging because it's in my eyes and everything. Chris Harris sprayed it in my eyes.
Chris Harris, I thought you'd had a drink while I'd been out.
No, that's because race winner Ross Gunn handed in the champagne bottle.
He got disqualified for being too professional.
Yeah. I'm 9 minutes into my stint and Haven's already had a pop.
For those of you who are just joining us, Peter Dumbreck was racing in the All Aston Martin celebration race this morning, one of the 2 support races this morning here at Le Mans, and won it.
Oh,
so
check that out.
Dear me.
Now then, that reminds us again, when we were enjoying our little bit of late evening fromage, we were watching an onboard as somebody coming into the Ford chicane, and one of the P1 cars came from his left, whoomp, right across, went from central reservation to hard shoulder to go into the pit lane in a space, the forward space of about 30 feet. He crossed all 4 lanes and straight into the pits. Don't know who that was, and I don't know who that was there, but that shows the commitment of the P-class drivers.
Would that have been a Toyota, because it was just going so fast? And
it might well have been
somewhere,
and they just did not want to lift off. I think we just to clarify the BMW situation as well. I think we just got a note through saying that the BMW 81 that was back in the, was into the pits and sat there for quite a while, had a damper issue just like the 82. So the 2 cars now have had the same issue. So something that they weren't expecting, and it hadn't shown up in all the testing they'd done, and they come here to Le Mans, which is not unusual. This track's pretty unusual as it is. So you get here and things that you've done in so many miles in testing, and a track like this, you can't replicate that easily. And
good job,
those problems.
Let's get our head down, eyes forward, all good still. Gas 1 minute 30.
So obviously, while I was out, I heard about the SMP car going into the wall just at Porsche curves. That was a sizable shunt from what I can gather. But what happened to the 94 car? Where the 94 Porsche? Because that was running when I last saw it. But Timo Bernhard, Roman Demar, and Sven Muller.
Yeah, that was on the shift. So Karun would know about that. Toby, see, we
we've all
this book that you laid out, so that people would write things in it. Well, they didn't write that, and I'm afraid we don't know what happened.
Unfortunately, it's not in the incident book. It's not in the bump book. Nobody got
but
a
it's
note
definitely
sent to
in the
their
pit.
mum and dad.
I've seen it sitting in the pit. So yeah,
it's not going any further. Right. Okay, fair enough. Right.
Now then, well, a couple of little things I'm going to just quickly delve into. Car 98, I'm hearing from Twitter, may possibly still have Paul Dall'Anna working on it at the side of the track. Wow.
Then he's been there for 3 hours.
Because they've been there a long time. That happened when I was in the commentary box last time, and I left at 11 o'clock or something. What time did I leave? Yeah, I left at 11 o'clock.
Well, it was daylight. When did it get dark?
It was today, not tonight.
It was yesterday.
No, it was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
That means
that
can't be true. He'd be there. He must have been there 5 hours or something.
It seems unlikely, but
I left at 10, and he was in the wall before 10.
Yeah, it seems unlikely. I've now lost who asked, but somebody asked, what happens with LMP1 cars if they finish out the top 10? How are the points awarded then? Well, the answer is very simple. Points are awarded to each class based on their finishing position in the class. So if you're an LMP1 car and you are classified as a finisher, i.e. you finish 75% of race distance, then if you're 6th, even though you're 45 laps behind, you still get 6th place points in class.
Yeah.
So the big classes where there are likely to be more than 10 finishers, where you're scrabbling for points, are going to be LMP2 and GTE Pro. And GTE Pro is a world championship category, as is LMP1. So that is a battle for position, and it goes on as we see Earl Bamber from Wanganui heading back out to the pit lane. You are battling for points, and right now last point in GTE Pro is being earned by Darren Turner, and out of the points, as he just comes out of the pits, is Billy Johnson in the 68 Ford. So there will be 7 cars in GTE Pro, which started with 17, who won't get points, either because they've retired or because they're out of the top 10. So the simple answer is, points are only awarded in class. So imagine in Formula 1, if you're a Mercedes driver, you'd get first or second place points in your Mercedes class, and everybody else would be battling in the other class. Although possibly Red Bull, you know, but
Yeah.
here, P1 get points, P2 get separate points, GTE Pro and GTM all get separate points depending on where they finish in their class, irrespective of their overall finishing position. And the only cut-off is, if you don't complete enough laps to be classified as a finisher, then you get diddly. Well, here is the car that is out of the points, the 60... Oh, no, it's not. That's the third place car, 68 Ford of Joey Hand. Second place, GTE Pro car. We're running through our GTE Pro class. That's the second place, and that is the leader. So the 91 and the 92, they are the top 3 with the 68 Ford. This is the third place car. And actually, he was only a dozen seconds or so behind Richard Lees, but that gap is now out to a minute. So I rather fancy that Joey Hand was sort of benefiting slightly from the need to pit when he was right up behind the Ford, and is now back to where he was before. It was Statis Coco who asked about the points, so that's that. What else do we know?
Windscreen clean on this car while you look through your stuff, the 39 car. And
look at the state of the white bodywork there, Jules.
It's great, it's brilliant.
Now, you know, in rallycross, that's because somebody's flinging mud up at you. All of that muck, that's bits of rubber that have worn off the tyre. That's what you call marbles, or when it sticks to the tyre, what you call pickup. As the tyre works like your road tyre, only on a much faster scale, by the rubber gripping the road. Actually, imagine you're trying to rub chewing gum off the sole of your shoe. That's what happens to the rubber on the tyre, right, Peter? That's why we end up with all these bits at the side of the track, or on the track.
Yeah, and once you get them on your tyre, it depends on your speed, but they stick to your tyre and they get more and more embedded, and you've got to push hard, and for a lap or two, you can try to work them off, and they might well come off, but quite often they just stick there, and depending on how old the tyre is, they might stay there for the rest of the stint, and you have a bit of a vibration. So you generally get them if you have to go offline to overtake another car, and it would generally be on the outside of a corner. Straights not so much, but on the corners, you know, you've got the set racing line, and if you have to go off that racing line and go around the outside, you're going to pick up all these marbles and dirt and grit, and that's when it gets stuck to the tyre, and quite often, as I said, they're there for a lap before you can get rid of it again, and sometimes even longer.
John 100,166. That's a strange surname. Mr. and Mrs. 100,166, you've had a boy. Let's call him John. Car 94 had a massive right rear suspension failure that did massive damage.
I remember too. Ma went into the pits when I was here. Remember it broke in going into Mulsanne?
Yes, and it's not in the accident book.
I
remember now.
I was on duty then. That
Julian failed to to file his own health and safety incident report.
Oh man, that's
this was
unbelievable.
3 hours ago. Okay. No,
I'm surprised they couldn't fix that, so I've got to be forgiven.
Paul Dall'Anna working on the Aston was 3 hours ago.
Okay, that's fine. That's good. I need to know how Renger van der Zander's doing, because it's my favourite name, and because of the way we have our screens here, I can't see him, but he's not in the top 30 anyway, that's for sure. But that car has not got the mark of doom through it, so it's still moving through the race, which is the main thing. G-Drive, they're going well, aren't they? That's a big lead they've got.
They did have a lot of trouble earlier on dragging speed, didn't they? They sat out for quite a while, but they are still circulating somewhere. Let's find them.
The number 10 car was a straight lining, basically, of the entire Dunlop chicane by Renger van der Zander, Jules' favourite name.
That's great.
On the planet. So he went straight across and basically sort of half ripped the floor off the car and cost him an awful lot of time. The Algarve Pro car.
31st overall.
Is the Algarve Pro car still circulating? Let me look at that. Yes, it is. It's not shown as in the pits. So number 25 car, which had an oil pump failure, lost at least, well, they were figuring at least 30 minutes with a rebuild on that. That car is still going though. And they were setting 2 with the wheel, because basically their target as a fully AM car is to get to the end, finish Le Mans. And actually, Peter, you know, you've been in years where finishing Le Mans is just about the hardest thing you can possibly imagine trying to do.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I find it remarkable that your marker's only been used 4 times. And we're almost halfway through the race. Okay, not quite, but
yeah, but we're nearer to halfway.
10 laps in. Yeah. So exactly right. And this is the reliability of modern cars, isn't it?
And bearing in mind as well, the drivers are pushing the cars even harder than before, and yet they're surviving. And yeah, it's remarkable technology and the way it's moved on. And
again, that is the reliability of modern cars, because 10 hours in 20 years ago, you couldn't be pushing at 100% because you know you'd never see the dawn. Now the cars will not break down. Basically, if you see a car on the side of the road, if it's not a light, missing lots of bits, it's an electronics issue.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty much. You know, the oil pump failure on Algarve Pro, that's very unusual, that something basic and mechanical goes wrong, because modern componentry is so... I mean, think about your road car, you know, in the 70s, you'd be decoking a car at 60,000 miles. Now you think nothing of buying a second-hand car that's done 200,000.
It's amazing how...
I would think twice about that, but I know you've got one, so yeah.
I have to say, I didn't want to say that. Please, you said that. I'd be a bit worried. Massive bill coming in the workshop somewhere along the line.
No. If it's done 200,000 miles, everything that could possibly be changed has been changed several times over.
I love his way of looking at it.
It's like you're in more danger buying a 20,000-mile car.
Trigger's broom, isn't it?
Yeah.
The handle's changed, the broom's changed, yeah. No, but it's still the same one.
It's had dampers, it's had brakes, it's had this, that and the other, but the chances are the engine and the gearbox and the axle are the same ones that were fitted to it 15, 20 years ago. You know, you're in more danger buying a low mileage classic car than you are buying a high mileage one, because everything needs changing and none of it works.
And as you said though, I mean, we watched that GT battle, but I mean, it's started to calm down quite a bit now, so maybe the last hour it's calmed down, but the first 7 or 8 hours was absolutely hammer and tong, no quarter asked or given.
Yeah, nose to tail.
Yeah,
and
nose to tail.
It's taken little issues, so now both BMWs have had little issues. Again, probably more down to the fact that it's a brand new car than anything else.
Yeah. Confirmation from Toby, by the way. He's been speaking to the chaps at BMW. It was a left front damper, exactly as on the other car. And Antonio Felix da Costa told Hunky Dunky hours ago, he said, we've never had that fail in testing. But if an unexpected failure happens on one car and the other one comes in with a front end problem, chances are it's the same thing, and apparently it was.
I did talk about this, but yeah.
And the brake change was purely because the car was coming in, so they changed the brakes. So they won't need to change the brakes. You know, predominantly, you sort of expect to do one within about 10 hours of the end on a GT car. So they did it 10 hours from the beginning, and hopefully they'll go the rest of the way without any further problems.
It is just great. I think it's amazing how they just keep going, you know what I mean? And they just really... But it's not only... You're just going to talk about the car as well. I mean, how many components on one of these cars? Hundreds of thousands. But there's the driver, there's the team. A mechanic does something wrong, short fuels it by mistake, doesn't put the wheel nut on right. You know, there's so many things with the length of the race and fatigue coming into it that could go wrong. And it's quite amazing that we'll get to Sunday afternoon and there will still be more people in the race than out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that definitely didn't used to be the case. No. I mean, you know, you go for a nap for 4 hours and all the Lanciers would have retired. You go, why now? Come on.
And I'm just thinking back to, again, on the same subject, I'm thinking back to when it used to be GT1 and GT2 in the GT class. And so I came back for the first time since '99. I think it was 2006. And I was driving a Spiker. And a Spiker wasn't the most reliable car. And we got a few hours into the race. And it was sort of going all right. And then it just, game over. We're out. And then I thought, never mind, because there's some fast guys up there and we probably wouldn't have got a result anyway. And then I went away home. The race was still on. I got home, and then I learned that the Panos ended up winning in the GT2 class, and we were way quicker than the Panos, even with the Spiker. And yet it just kept going, and they won the class. And that's, that just brought it home to me that everyone else just retired.
And who ran the Spiker at the Panos?
Was it Lawrence Tomlinson?
Team LNT. Yeah. Lawrence Tomlinson, the man who runs Ginetta.
Yeah.
So, he's back here again. Yes, you're right, and that's absolutely right.
In fact, he was one of the drivers.
Yeah, he was. And that car with Luke Hines and
Richard Dean.
Oh, Dickie Dean, who's here with United Autosports that he co-owns with Zach Brown. So. The only one who's not returned on a fairly regular basis, in fact, is Luke Hines.
You know why? He's gone completely back to his roots. He's totally immersed in karting.
Well, Ben Hanley competes in the World Kart Championship every single year. Ben Hanley, when he was a teenager, lived in Italy because he was working with Tony Kart and all these other guys, lived in Italy for several years when he was a teenager, went to school and everything, and karted, and still every year now, at whatever he is, early 30s, he's in there with all these 17 and 18-year-old kids that are so light and so see-through, and he's a whippersnapper young karter. He's still top 3 in the CIK World Kart Championships on an annual basis. He's the Terry Fullerton of the modern era, if you like, except he does other stuff as well. Terry Fullerton was a man, English karter who was top of the game for many, many years. In fact, one of the few people at Ayrton Senna said he could never really beat. Little bit of close parking there in the garage as in came the 51 AF Corsa Ferrari of Daniel Serra and out went Augusto Farfus in the BMW. So the 82 car had the problem earlier on and is now in fact ahead of the 81 car, which was in for a longer stop recently, and the BMWs, which were not impressive in terms of pace in qualifying, had gradually worked their way up the order. Unfortunately, that unexpected damper issue has worked them back down the order.
Serra, of course, winner last year in the GT with Darren Turner and Johnny Adam.
Yep. And that car still going. In fact, Dazzle is driving that. They're in 9th place at the moment, so they will earn points as it stands, but their sister car, Alex Lynn, down in 14th place.
If you remember, we've got the screen up here with the top 15 pro cars. If you remember, they weren't even on that screen earlier on.
Right at the beginning of the race,
And they've come up from nowhere to, as you say, top 10. The other, Aston Martin, again, I don't know what's happened to it, but they've had an issue down in 14th with Alex Lynn.
I was trying to listen to the French circuit commentary from my caravan because they were interviewing Alex Lynn, and I couldn't quite hear the answers, unfortunately, because there were some wretched cars going around making a bit too much noise. So I'm, do you know what? I'm going to send a message to Strangy and ask him what happened with that.
In the meantime, with the BMW 81 car, Nick Katzberg at the wheel, he's just done set his fastest lap of the race. So bearing in mind, it's pretty dark out there. And that car's had issues, obviously, but it's running so well, and it does seem that the BMWs, as it's got cooler, they've got faster and faster. So they've got another 6 or so hours that they're going to be super quick until it warms up again.
Yeah. Now, the answer to the 97 issue, I've already got in my messages from their PR guy, Simon Strang. 97 was rolled back into the pits to change a damper. While we were at it, we changed the brakes too. So exactly the same as the BMW did with the front dampers. When it's in, and then this is what Eduardo Freitas does. He has a little job list And eventually, when either all the jobs reach critical mass or somebody has a big shunt and he has to safety car the track, while we're neutralised, get all the other little niggly things. Replace that flappy bit, replace that, tidy up that, sweep that gravel, everybody go, go, go. And so that's exactly what the teams do. Things that you wouldn't bring the car in for, if it's forced in, get them done. Fernando Alonso takes over the number 8 car in second place from Sebastian Buemi. Third place car is on the pit road as well. That's Matthias Besch in the number 3 Rebellion. And so too is Roman Rusinov, has just taken over the G-Drive car. Now, Roman Rusinov did at least a double earlier and possibly a triple stint, but the LMP2 cars are doing 10 laps at, let's say, 3 minutes 30 a lap, so 3.5 minutes. So that's a stint is 30 minutes and 30 half minutes, which is 15 minutes, 45 minutes. So 45, 90, and 45 is 135, which is 2 hours 15. So he's done a bit over a third of the minimum he needs to do. So he needs to do 2 more triples straight on at the chicane, diving through traffic, whatever that LMP2 car was. I think that might have been the second place car, Julian Canal. It had blue lights on the side, so it was second or third place car, because Rusinov hasn't got that far round. But Petrie dived past a GT car into the chicane and then realised, oh, too much speed. Yeah. Straight lined it right across the nose of the GT driver.
It's always a wise choice. If you think you can't make it, do not commit to the corner, or else it's going to end badly. And yes, there's always that runoff. You can always just go around. You've got more time to slow down and just go around those tyres and carry on your way.
Yeah. Well, Michael Christensen, as well as being a pretty quick driver, has also got a neat sense of humour. He was just tweeting about, you think pigs are slow and cumbersome and wallowy? No, pigs can run very quickly, and our pig can run quicker than most. He's in the pink pig Porsche that leads the race. He handed over to Kevin Estra and got on social media straight away. So among the many drivers I suggest you follow, Michael Christensen, at Christensen MK, is definitely one of those. Jean-Eric Verne as well. He's handed over, he's taken, Andrea Pizzatola handed over to Roman Rusinov. Rusinov doing the night shift. And there is the boss of Porsche's nascent Formula E program. You might recognise his face because Andreas Seidel was in the back of the garage of their 919 program. So he's the man that masterminded their return to LMP1, and he and his crew have masterminded the 919 Evolution. Go and look for that lap of Spa. And he is also in charge of their Formula E program. They come to Formula E in season 6. We are currently 2 races or 1 weekend away from the end of season 4. Next year, season 5, or starting in the autumn, season 5, sees Mercedes arrive with a fully fledged team. Season 6 sees Porsche expand the championship even further. Top 3 in the race are in the pits, because we saw Alonso, in fact, they've just left the pitch. We saw Alonso taking over number 8. Mike Conway has taken over number 7. And Matthias Besch is 3rd in the number 3 car. So it's Toyota 1-2. This is Conway, still the leader by 3 minutes and 16 seconds. And it's about a 3 minute, well, more of a 3 minute 25, 26 second lap. So effectively, Alonso is 10 seconds in front of Conway, because Conway is 10 seconds away from lapping the second place car. Now, Peter, if you're Mike Conway and you're 10 seconds behind Fernando Alonso, 10 seconds away from putting him a lap down, you have but one target in the next 2 stints, don't you?
Absolutely, but I'm not sure the team would let him put a lap on him.
What are they going to do? Say slow down and follow Fernando?
Yes.
No.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, all you're doing then is you're robbing yourself potentially of 50% of your chance of winning the race.
No, because Alonso's still 4 laps ahead of the next car.
Yeah, but if I'm saying by slowing Conway down artificially, What happens when racing drivers slow down?
Well, they don't need to. He's not going to have to slow down by much. It's not like he's going to be 10 seconds a lap faster than Alonso. But
agreed.
Well, let's see what happens. What is the gap?
Well, the gap's, in fact, after the pit stops, Conway's lost about a minute in the pit stop, so it's gone from 3 minutes and 10 down to 2 minutes and 17. So that becomes less of an issue because he's basically the Mulsanne straight behind, isn't he?
Well, yeah, let's you know, watch the lap times over the next few laps and see what happens. But I personally don't think they will allow Mike to lap Alonso.
I think they have to be very careful about denying him that opportunity. Let's say if there's a safety car or some issue, or Alonso has a tiny problem, then they can't possibly hobble their healthy car by slowing him down that much. But in the normal scheme of things, it's going to have to be a mighty double-double by Conway to catch basically a minute and get by Alonso cleanly. Out goes 68, and that Ford is... why can't I see 68? Is it out of the top? Oh, no, there you go. It's just come back out. Third place, Joey Hand.
Yeah, top running Ford at the moment. It's kind of quieting down a fair bit up there now. You know, we had, as Julian was saying, we had a few cars running nose to tail for quite a long time, and the gap between them was literally tenths of seconds. And so now we've got the Estra Porsche 1 minute and 33 up front, and then back to Joey Hahn 2 minutes 22, then 3:09. So it's kind of spread out, and the battle's kind of settled down for a while. So yeah, I want to keep an eye on these Toyota times, Conway and Alonso, and just obviously Mike's been out there for quite a while, so he's fully up to speed. So I do expect him to be faster than Fernando, but Fernando also needs to find his feet out there in the dark. First stint in dark conditions, isn't it? I mean, he's of course driven in the qualifying, and in the test day he will have driven in the dark. And he's driven in the dark in wet conditions.
With the rain, yeah.
So, you know, he's had a good eye-opener to it, but this is his first proper stint where he's got to deal with the traffic, because, as we saw, he had no traffic at all in qualifying because no one was out there.
No, exactly. He had the entire circuit to himself, which is something you can't hire. I don't care how rich you are. And he goes by the 67 Ford, and this is the battle that we saw earlier on. 67 Ford versus the 63 Corvette. This time it's Harry Tinkle versus Mike Rockenfeller. And this battle earlier on went through several pit stops and changes of driver, remember, and still the two cars were knocking each other's doors off. And so the 67 Ford, this is the highest placed of the cars that's had an issue, and its issue was a drive-through penalty earlier on. It's fought its way back into 6th position. Ahead of it is our two Team USA Fords. Scott Dixon's in 5th, Joey Hand's in 3rd. One Ferrari from AF Corsa, and it's Antonio Giovinazzi who is in 4th place, and the top two cars are still the historic liveried Celebration WEC team Porsches. 92, the Pink Pig, ahead of 91, the 90s 956 962 Blue Cigarette Company liveried car. I have to say that because I can't say Rothmans.
I don't know what we're...
Altogether or not at all.
What is that, Rothmans? I don't even know what it is.
Not at all. I said it earlier, and it slipped out, and it'll probably slip out again, but the Porsches are just having an unbelievably good time of it at the moment.
So we're kind of at that stage where things are a bit quiet and not that much happening, and it's night time and we can't see all that much. So,
well, hang on a minute, you mean the race after 10 hours of utter madness is finally starting to calm down a wee bit?
Well, Yeah, that's generally what happens. People just settle in for the night and get on with their jobs and just keep it calm until, you know, the sun starts coming up and it starts going mental again. So
these two, these are not night watchmen. They have not settled in, I'm afraid. Now, there's Mike Rockenfeller's Corvette, and the other Corvette is Marcel Fessler. Now, so there's Mike Rockenfeller, ex-Audi driver, ahead of Marcel Fessler, who I first met as a factory Mercedes driver back in 1998. I was going to say, never fall asleep in a garage. But in fact, he hasn't fallen asleep. Captain Jake says, it is Happy Father's Day. It was not in America, in fairness, yet, because in America it's still only yesterday, because they're behind the times. It is actually Father's Day in Europe, though, so Happy Father's Day to everybody who's still awake. And
who's a father.
And who's a father.
Yeah, who's a father,
I'm afraid my dad won't be awake at this stage. And no point saying thank you for the Father's Day to my son, because he won't be awake, and if he is, he won't be watching this either.
And he won't even know it's Father's Day.
I guess he probably hasn't got you anything, has he?
No, he sent me a card, so...
That's okay. Well,
that's good of him.
Caravan number 6, the circuit, Le Mans, brackets in the gravel trap. Le Mans, the world, obviously, France.
Yeah, so you're talking about these two Corvettes. Well, they're separated by how many laps? 3 laps?
Yeah, something like that, isn't it? Because
4 laps. Yeah, so...
Yeah.
The Fastler car had a few issues earlier on.
That's a diff being rebuilt, that is. Now, I didn't see enough of it to know whether or not that's a spool diff, but that is a differential being rebuilt. So I wonder whether that has come out of the Fastler car. I'm not sure what the problem initially was for the 64 car.
So what I was going to say is at this sort of time of night we tend to answer some Twitter questions. So,
we do.
So if anyone wants to send Martin Haven some Twitter questions, go ahead.
He will answer.
He'll answer them because he's got on.
So you can send them to @MartinHaven @rlovejoy.
Lovejoy.
And what are you, Jules?
Well, either Julian Porter or the Rally Guru with underscores in between each one.
For both, or just for the Rally Guru underscores?
Just for the Rally Guru.
Just for the Rally Guru.
Yeah.
So send us a few questions in. And in fact,
I put my glasses somewhere, so I won't be able to answer it. I have no idea where I put my glasses.
Now that's a major flaw. If I
just zoom in on your phone, you go like that with your phone, you can zoom in. It'll be fine.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't squeeze and zoom in on the screens. And if I take my glasses off, I can't even tell you who's leading.
Well, you could hand it to me because my eyes still work.
I can see the screen.
You're 20
it's
years
my
younger
phone
than me.
I can't see. But anyway,
that's because, like Andy Prio, you're only 34.
Exactly.
That's another conversation in the Interstint Cheese Fest from earlier on. You missed out on that, Jules. You need to cheese your way through the evening, on air and off. Cheese grommets. Actually, the way you say that is very Aardman animation. On board with a 67 Ford. Great opportunity, although the telemetry is just a fraction of a second behind, great opportunity to see how the drivers are using the brake and the throttle independently and or together to get the cars to rotate into the chicane. And down the Mulsanne, you see the blue lights, the light signals replicate what the flags are doing, and on the dash in the car, his little telltale screen that's controlled by race control will also be flashing blue at him to alert him to the fact there's a car behind. As Toby was mentioning earlier on, they now have this Sentinel system in the car as well that's derived from the Dakar that tells you, uses GPS and proximity radar to tell you that there is somebody behind you. If in your own car, those of you who are classic car owners, you'll know that occasionally rear view mirrors drop off and fall into the passenger footwell. Well, that doesn't happen with these cars because a lot of these cars don't have a rear view mirror in the way that we understand it. What they have is a tiny little display attached to a rear-facing camera. However, those are electrical, and electrical things, as we know, often go wrong or get biffed from behind or the camera, whatever. So that Sentinel is a belt and braces. There's Andrea Seidel.
Oh, interesting conversation with him the other night.
We had a lovely chat with him. a man more passionate about cars you couldn't wish to meet.
Yeah, he was fascinating. Talk about their wins here the last couple of years and the 919 tribute and all that. So. But just going back to your rear view camera, I've seen them when we've been wandering around the pits and everything, but in the night time, you just must get a massive amount of light, or do you just turn it off?
Well, the good thing is they're automatically dim.
Well, it's better. Yeah, if you're using a mirror, a normal mirror, because you don't normally put dimming mirrors on race cars. It's easier with the camera, but yeah, it is an issue, and it's been a big issue through the years, and you know, the P1 cars come across a gaggle of GT cars, and they're all fighting, and you look in your mirror and all you see is white, and you don't know how close that car is, and so it's been really, I think it's got better over the years. I think with the technology of the lights moving on, they're not so blinding, but yet they're still very bright for the driver. So you know, I haven't heard any of the GT drivers complaining quite like they used to do, so I think things have got better.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing is the light technology. Alan was talking about this with Audi and their LEDs and their laser light technology. Now, road cars, modern road cars, have a proximity radar that senses a car coming, and modern LEDs are made up of many, many little LEDs, and they dip the lights, not by dipping the lights, but by blanking out certain parts of the LED, so there's a dark spot over the car as it approaches and goes away. And that technology was also in the Audi race cars, and may well be in things like the Porsches and so on that are using high-tech LEDs. And so that's a sort of joint road car, race car development that benefited both the road car drivers and the race car drivers. And in fact, the deal is, and Mercedes use this as well, the deal is you put the lights on automatic and you never have to dip them. They dip themselves as there's an approaching car, or in this case, as you're approaching another car. So you've got the sort of dipping rear camera, and you've got the dipping front lights as well that leave a dark spot over the car, because you don't need to illuminate that because you can't see through the car anyway. You need to see around the side of it, and so it keeps those bits on full beam, but it sort of mutes or dips the bit in front.
Where would the bonnet have gone on that car? I didn't even see
into the garage.
Well, yeah, because I didn't see anyone holding it.
Or possibly flown off. It might have been an outlet for Charlie Eastwood, who is in the TF Sport number 90 car that was on pit road. But it may be that as it arrived, and before we saw that, they whipped it off into the garage. So while they do something under the bonnet, it may be that it's flown off on the track. So we haven't got any reports of debris, but on the other hand, we haven't not got any reports of debris. Thanks for asking for questions. We've got enough to get us going to 5 AM.
Good. Okay.
Actually, now, here's a question. And it's about and I haven't got the answer, so I'm going to throw this over. So Philip Pond says, with the new lap stint and lap regulations for LMP1 now being limited to 11 laps for the hybrids and 10 for the normally aspirated cars, if there's a safety car, are they allowed to extend that? Let's listen to Rebellion.
Okay, but no, you're doing a good job. You're doing a good job. The gap with the sister car is stable, which is the most important thing. Keep doing like this.
Okay.
Well, he's doing a good job.
Not wildly laden with information for the driver. You appear to be driving at night. Very good, well done. Okay, so that was Bruno Senna, who is a lap adrift of his teammate Matthias Besch, and they are battling for what is currently the final podium spot. What in 14 hours, 13 hours, who knows? Might be the win.
You know what, though?
You can never tell, can
you? You know, in the past, we've had works teams and privateers.
Yes.
So, are they actually fighting for the win in privateer?
No, they're fighting for the win.
Overall.
If they end up being beaten by the Toyotas, then they'll be the best non-hybrid LMP1 car.
But they'll get points for...
Oh, yes.
For the win in privateer. Yeah.
No, they'll get points in...
Because when last, okay, it was a few years ago, but
Good
when I did this this race in 2012 with the JRM P1 car,
Yes.
we had privateers points, and there was a privateer
Trophy. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Good question.
So
Don't have a good answer.
we've ignored the other question and found another question.
Yeah,
so there's two
you've
questions we
answered the
can't
question
answer.
with a totally different question we can't answer. Matt Campbell from Warwick, which is in New South Wales, not in Warwickshire.
Right.
That's a different one. We saw his graphic up a little earlier, and I was trying to think what famous Australian racing driver comes from Warwick. I can't remember. I know there was a circuit at Warwick Downs, but I can't think. Anyway, he's leading in the LMP, in the GTE AM class. 93 needs to stay away from the gravel traps, doesn't he? Crone Racing car is in. This is number 44, car run by Eurasia Motorsport. And Nick Johnson at the wheel. Looks like he stayed in, and away they go.
He was desperate to get going, and actually it turns out he could have got going. It looked like that. They just held him there, but they're in no rush. They just want to get to the end, these guys.
Yeah. Julian is clearing off again. Without his glasses, he's going hunting for his glasses.
They're on your head, Julian, look.
He's like a one-legged man in a bum-kicking contest. He's off to try and remember where he's put them down. Just saw the number 25 car, by the way. That is the Algarve Pro Racing car that had that oil pump change. And
anyway, going back to the question about the how many laps, I'm going to say that they can't extend. Because the amount of laps they can do is the amount of laps they can do. They can't extend it.
No, I would agree with you. Otherwise, there's all sorts of fudgery that can go on. Oh, well, there's a long, slow zone. And No, it's not that's how many they can do because of the fuel they're carrying. It's how many that they are mandated they cannot exceed. And I think you're right. It's a hard and fast rule. So, Philip, we say that. TF Sport, by the way, updating us on the where's Charlie's bonnet gone thing. And the answer is, it's in the dark. So souvenir hunters out on the circuit, there is a very nice matte blue wrapped Aston Martin bonnet somewhere. And in the Johnny Cash spirit of one piece at a time, all you need is all the other bits, and suddenly you've got an Aston Martin Vantage GT3 car.
I'm sure they'll absolutely love you for saying that.
Well, I can guarantee that the people who have picked it up are marshals, and I can also guarantee that they've got a far greater likelihood of getting it back than if it flown into the crowd somewhere during daylight.
But they turn their back. They've got to put flags out and stuff. And someone sneaked up behind them.
Nah. The places that things blow off are here out in the dark where there aren't fans. So Charlie coming in from 7th, had lost the bonnet, and the boys working hard to sort that out. So Philip Pond, we think, no, you cannot under any circumstances extend beyond 10 laps for a normally aspirated car and 11 for a hybrid car. Emmanuel Pereira wants to know how much is Le Mans technology then applied to consumer products. Wow. Well, the big things are disc brakes in the 1950s which are on every single car, and all sorts of other bits and pieces. We talked about the laser lights, hybrid systems. Hybrid systems have sort of come from racing into road cars, or gradually coming into road cars. Things that definitely are in your road cars because of racing are much better electronic systems, much better fuel injection systems, lighting, metallurgy, tyre technology. So much has been improved, so much. The classic always used to be that technology was improved by warfare. You think of what aviation was like before World War II, biplanes, and after World War II, we're supersonic jets. You know, technology is forced on at an unbelievable pace by warfare. It certainly has been in this century, but the battles out on the racetrack.
Last century.
Yes, well, in the last 100 years, but yes, absolutely, last century, in the 20th century. But the technology of cars has unquestionably forced on by the race, and actually this race particularly, and in this race specifically, The 1923 Grand Prix d'Endurance, which was held at Le Mans, the first 24-hour race, was to prove that cars were reliable and not dangerous death traps. And hence they were used for improving really basic stuff like lighting. And they had to run the first hour of the race with the canvas hood erected, because cars then didn't have hard tops, they had soft tops. And if your roof blew down, you had to come to the pits and get it fixed back up. At any stage during the first hour, you had to have the roof up. And the whole point of manufacture was going to prove that cars weren't just dangerous death traps for rich flippity gibbets. They were actually a sensible mode of transport and as safe as a horse. Now, you can't imagine anybody nowadays saying that horses are safer than cars, but that's definitely the way that thinking was in the early part of the 20th century. So this race specifically, and sports car racing and other motor racing generally, has definitely improved every single aspect of your car, apart from possibly heated massaging seats.
But you never know, they might find their way in. No, probably not.
Well, there's Michael Christensen just about to be interviewed by Danish television. And there's another element. Danish television would never have covered this in the 50s or the 60s or the 70s. Some bloke called Tom something or other is largely responsible for millions of Danes having been to this race and tens of millions knowing about this race. And just this race is responsible for making motorsport known to tens of millions of people around the world. And so
people who are not interested at all in motor racing know about Le Mans 24 hours.
But as a result, manufacturers come and race here, and that helps improve their products, whether they want it to or not. They want the prestige. The end result is they end up getting the benefits from it. Don't ask, they're Swabian. That's all I'm saying. Moving on, this is the 91 Porsche, second place car of Richard Leeds, and by him, unless I miss my guess, goes the number 25 Algarve Pro car and a Rebellion. And look, you can see the Rebellion, those little exhaust flares there. That's gorgeous. And that's one of the joys of being out on the Mulsanne or down at Arnage or somewhere at night, is like all the flames. I mean, the Mazdas, back in the day, you'd get a couple of yards of flame coming out of the back of those things on the overrun.
The good news is, Julian's back and he's found his glasses.
He's found somebody's glasses.
Well, yeah, I've just pinched them off some girl up there who didn't need anything because it was off the bed.
Is that why they're pink?
Exactly, they're lovely though, aren't they? But in general, motorsport doesn't have the big flames anymore, does it? We have kind of like massively detuned the big flames.
But then think about car technology. There are no big leaps. It's now incremental improvements, as it is in motor racing, but it is the things like the metallurgy and the reliability, and especially in modern cars, the huge advance of electronics in cars has been driven exclusively by motor racing. Exclusively.
The 91 Porsche there, the blue and white one, glowing brake discs at the end of the straight, and that's something else you get in the dark, isn't it? As well as the flames, you get those glowing brake discs.
Getting a bit chilly in here, is it not?
It's not, no.
Okay, it's just me.
It is just you. The problem is
I brought my fleece.
Let's describe the commentary. We're in a metal cabin, in a sort of porter cabin thing, although it's not a porter cabin because that's a brand, and it is 1, 2, 3 meters deep, 3 meters across, and 2 meters deep.
That's not 3 meters.
No, you're right.
You could stand. Your head would come to here. So
2.5, not even. Yeah, 2.5 meters. So it's about 8 feet. 8 feet across. We've got a table across the front with 2 big monitors, one with a feed, one with a page of the timing screen. We've got another one in the corner with a second monitor on, but it's about 6 feet deep. And the only airflow is if the door is open. So 24 hours, 6 people in shifts, breathing our own carbon dioxide in. There is no other airflow, there's no air circulation. The air conditioner under the desk, which is cooling our knees but nothing else, is basically just recycling and cooling carbon dioxide. So we have to have the door open, otherwise...
Very pleasant thought you've put there.
Otherwise there'll be 6 hours of snoring while we all pass out from low oxygen content.
Lovely.
So there we go. There's